what is the problem here? The problem here is in your profession, you're constantly looking for problems. And when you apply that to yourself, what happens? All you see is problems. All right, let's go, team. What's going on? My name's Dice Brand, and I want to welcome you to this video on the engineer's curse. So in this video, we're going to be going into some of the pitfalls that logically and analytically minded men tend to fall victim to when you start to go down the rabbit hole of like self-development and career progression. So if you're an engineer, you're an aircraft maintenance engineer, you're especially a military member or a construction worker, or you're in some sort of profession that you're called upon to like fix physical problems on the fly, to like use your nerd brain, well, this video is directly aimed at you. So if this sounds like something that you're interested in, I invite you to hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. It really helps out the channel a great deal. Now, I do have some notes here to keep me on track, just so that we can sort of like keep this thing linear. Because we're nerds, okay? So we like structure, okay? So structure is always a good thing. But I need you to sort of like pay attention, maybe even like take some notes down, because if I had learnt this stuff back in the day, it would have saved me a lot of pain and heartache. So that's why I'm so passionate about sharing this with you. So with that being said, let's get into it. So for the most part of your life, especially if you've got the engineering mindset, you've been emotionally and financially rewarded for a very, very long period of time. Or well, probably not financially rewarded, but certainly emotionally rewarded. Maybe even since you were this high, like when you started playing with Lego. So, you know, you've been, over the years, you've cultivated this very logical mind that's able to like see through mechanical equipment or see through the way things are structured, find problems, solve them, and you get like emotionally rewarded from that. You have a sense of fulfillment from that. And for the most part, this has not been a problem. This has been fantastic for your life. You've potentially made a lot of money, and you've had a lot of spiritual fulfillment from that. Okay, so we'll use this as like like the aircraft example for a minute. Like you would want, if you're an aircraft maintenance engineer, I studied to be an aircraft maintenance engineer briefly, so I can resonate with that sort of like mindset. It is a good thing that you are actually looking for the crack in the wing. It's a good thing that you're trying to work out why the landing gear isn't working properly, okay? You would want those things to work, and you're a valuable person to society because you have that mind. So you should never ever feel ashamed or guilt that you have this mind. However, there are some pitfalls to having this mind, and I want to explain some of these as we go into it. So unconsciously, what's actually going on in your head is you have you're starting to apply the same principles of what you've been doing in your profession to your own personal life, to your own soul, to your own spiritual and self-development. And because of this, you realize that it's actually not quite working, because what is the problem here? The problem here is in your profession, you're constantly looking for problems. And when you apply that to yourself, what happens? All you see is problems, okay? Because your mind is orientated towards seeking problems. So when you try to like step up, you try to better yourself, you have like an unconscious wiring, a neuro pathway in your brain that's saying, oh, I can't do that because of XYZ reason. I can't do this because of XYZ reason. And what happens over time, it starts to eat away at your confidence and your self-esteem, because you're unable to see past that, okay? So that's one of the biggest issues that I certainly run into, and maybe this is resonating with you. If it's resonating with you, I really appreciate it if you hit the like button. So where are we going with this? So another thing that happens with this sort of mindset is because we are so like long-term thinkers and like long-term gratification structured, it takes a little bit of time for us to really reconnect with ourselves and the way that we reward ourselves for our good behavior. Okay, so if you're working on a piece of equipment, you tend to not feel fully gratified or emotionally or financially rewarded until a complex piece of machinery or equipment is actually finished. Okay, and then it's on to the next thing, and then it's on to the next thing. So one of the things that you sort of have to work on over a period of time is to be able to celebrate the small wins, especially when it comes to your own self-development and your own spiritual growth. Because if you're unable to start to open up a part in your mind to create a better reward circuitry, it starts to really start to eat away at your soul. So when you're working on a piece of equipment, for instance, you've got the engineering mindset, you tend to be able to see where the progress of it. You're actually able to see it with your own eyes. It's a physical thing, a thing that you can actually see. And because of that, you can sort of like look at it and go, okay, well, last week it looked like this, and then now it looks like this. So there's some progression there. So there can be some sort of like self-gratification and like a bit of a celebration that the project is actually moving forward in the direction that you want it to. But what actually happens is when you start to move that same mindset to your inner work and the way that you want to try and better the way that your brain functions, is because there's no visual representation, it's very hard to see progress. It's very hard to see like how your small actions, your small chunking of your actions is actually improving, because there's nothing there, there's nothing physical to be able to reference that in your mind. So you may have noticed this with other people that are in this space that are teaching this sort of stuff. A lot of things that they do is they might use a lot of like whiteboards and that sort of thing, and like flow charts to be able to put that information into a more logical and structured system, maybe even using a lot of colors in that, because that's the way the brain stores memories, or especially if you're an engineer. And those examples tend to help you with your learning and helps with your progression. So that's a few things to think about when you're going into bettering yourself in this area. So the engineer, the way that their mind is structured is very much to do with seeing things visually. Okay, so we're talking about seeing progression, and we're also talking about like building out a mind map and a structure about how to go about your life so that you're not like going down the wrong path unknowingly. So being able to have something physical, you know, whether it be something that's written down or something that is a video, really, or even like a journal, it really goes a long way to be able to see your progression in this area. Okay, so one of the things, oh yeah, here we go. The next concept I want to put across to you is putting the equipment first. So you've been taught from a very young age to be able to look after your equipment, especially like your father would have said, okay, if you've got a motorcycle, or you've got like you've got some sort of like piece of like fun equipment, to not like run that thing into the ground. You know, make sure that you're doing oil changes on it. Make sure that you're you're looking after it. You know, you're not thrashing it. And another thing is like, this is another example, is maybe you have a performance car and you purposely go out of your way to find a BP service station to put BP 98 in it because nothing else is going to touch the car. So as engineers, we are very, the way our mind works is if we look after our equipment will look after us, okay? So that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing, and that is 100% true. If you don't maintain your equipment, it's going to fail, and it's probably going to fail at the worst time when you really, really need to call upon its use. But the problem that the engineer runs into, here's another pitfall, is we tend to put all of our equipment before ourselves. We tend to put all of our equipment before ourselves, okay? So we put awesome fuel into our car, but we don't necessarily look at ourselves as much of as a person of value, to value ourselves and think about, what about our maintenance? What about updating the firmware that's in our brain? What about caring for our living environment? What about eating good food? What about like challenging and maintaining our brain? You know, these things may not necessarily come up in our life because we are so goal orientated and we're so focused on making sure the things that are outside of ourselves are maintained and are in good condition. So yeah, that was one thing that I thought I'd share with you. What's the next one we got here? You've already briefly touched on how engineers tend to store and think. Okay, we think very logically, very flow charts, and if you resonate with this, it'll be like you tend to remember things based on images and colors instead of like words and concepts. Okay. So by having something that is like that's a physical representation, usually really helps with your learning. So if you want to try and go down like the path of self-development, it'd be really, really good for you to be able to do whatever you can to try and make it so that it's easier to remember by creating some sort of like physical model if possible. You know, it could be as simple as like getting Lego pieces and drawing stuff on it. It could be like creating a flow chart on your computer. It could be it could be maybe even doing like a video journal. My personal favorite is doing a video journal, because then you're able to track your progress. You're able to see where you were and see where you are and see how you're improving. And that sort of starts to help with your reward circuitry, and it sort of goes a long way with your self-esteem, because you're like, holy shit, that's where I used to be, and now I'm here, and I wonder what the future holds now. So it sort of starts to build you up in that sense. The next concept I want to talk about is communication skills. Okay, one of the curses of the engineer is we are very, very prefrontal cortex, think, where's the problem, like this, do that. Give me the fucking manual, let's get into the fucking PDFs, that sort of type of thing. And we are not called upon as much as other people in other professions to be able to use our voice, to be able to voice what's going on inside our head. So what happens is when you're looking to go for a raise or a job change, or like a transition, you tend to struggle to be able to express your genuine value. Okay, so one of the things that you would want to be, especially if you're starting to get into self-development and spiritual growth, you should really start to put some more time into improving your communication skills. If you're watching a video like this, you've already got some sort of inherent value. You know, you've either been to university, you've done some sort of trade course, and for the most part, that has been fantastic. It's helped out your bank account, and it's helped you accomplish so many goals in your life. So don't ever get rid of that. That's going to be there hopefully for the rest of your life, because thinking logically and pragmatically sets you aside from all these other fools that are just sort of like floating through fucking life. But you also need to realize that you need to focus on your communication skills, so that when you get into certain high pressure situations, or situations that you are called upon to, and you actually have to communicate your inherent value, you're able to deliver that in such a way that the other person is able to absorb it, utilize it, and see your value. Okay, so one of the things that goes on inside your head is you're like, well, I've got the qualification, I've got the thing on the wall, my equipment and my track record of maintaining equipment or whatever it is there. That speaks for itself, and of course it does. But let's put the icing on the cake. Let's make this a little bit better by improving our communication skills. Okay, so this will go a very long way. You don't have to be an amazing communicator. Okay, you just need to be a little bit better at projecting your voice, being able to have more linear thought, explain what you do very well, so that a potential recruiter or whatever situation you're in is able to pick up what you're putting down and be able to utilize it, and if you can help them, they will be able to help you. So yeah, some of my last thoughts on this is, if you're like trying to improve yourself in this area, I really encourage you to do some sort of journaling so that you can actually see that progression. If you don't like journaling, and like if you're like me and you've just got too many thoughts going on in your head and it takes too long to actually work out what's going on, do a video journal. This is going to kill two birds with the one stone. One, you're going to be able to see your progression, and two, your communication ability is now going to be improved because you're constantly working on that muscle to be able to bring information down from the top section of your mind, your subconscious, the things that you know, and put them into words so that people can understand. So so journaling on video, whatever suits you. Another thing is engineers, we tend to be perfectionists, okay? We're trying to make everything perfect. And you know that nothing in this world is perfect, okay? Everybody says that, but it's very much true. And the more that you can align yourself to that there is a standard, okay, a standard of practice for your profession, a standard of code of conduct, I could say, of things that you actually do. As long as you meet that or exceed that standard, that's fantastic. But if you're you're trying to always pursue excellence, but don't pursue perfection, because there's no such thing. Constantly be pushing yourself, pushing the boundaries so that you can go after the things that are important to you. But at the same time, recognize those imperfections, and especially when you start to move that towards your own spiritual growth or your own self-development, make sure that you don't apply those same principles from your profession onto you, because you'll be in for a bit of a shock when you can't look yourself in the mirror because all you see is problems with yourself. So yeah, another thing is like reward yourself for the little, like small chunking of things that you do well in your day-to-day life, okay? So, you know, by creating structure and order in your room or in your apartment or in your life, okay, and working hard to get that structure, actually take the time out to actually sit with yourself and go, you know, I earned whatever non-alcoholic beverage you might be drinking, or something that is to do that you perceive to be valuable and to make you feel good about yourself, okay? Make sure that the effort and the goal and the result that you've just delivered is equally matched to the reward. It can't be disproportional. You can't do nothing or very little and then have this great big reward, okay? Because that's not going to work long term. You want to have like, okay, I worked really hard. Got a hair in my throat. I worked really hard and now I can experience this reward that is about at the same level, okay? Yeah, my last thoughts on this is like, you are not a machine, okay? We work on machines, or we work on equipment, or we build buildings, and we have that engineering mindset, but we are humans. We are evolved monkeys on a spinning rock, okay? So letting that sort of sink in into your mind and going, you know, I'm going to strive for excellence, I'm going to try and do the best that I can, but at the end of the day, I'm a human just like everybody else. I have problems. There's things that I can change, there's things that I can't change, and learning to understand and differentiate the things that you can change and you can't change really goes a long way to improve your self-esteem and your confidence. So yeah, if you got something out of this video, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. And maybe if you're like an analytically and logically minded person and you're leaving the military, or you're in some of the professions that I talked about earlier, and you need somebody that's really serious about this, that was once an engineer, to be able to help you reduce that sort of mental clarity in your brain, to build out a bit of a life plan, to be able to sort of create a bit of like a roadmap. It doesn't have to be a perfect roadmap, but at least a good effort to like create some sort of structure so that your brain is working properly, then I'd really love to be able to help you with that. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, by all means, send me a DM on Instagram and we can get on a one-on-one discovery call to see if we're actually a good fit to work together. I don't want to work with people that are not serious about their own self-development and improving their life. If you're not in a position that you're able to invest time and money into yourself, then I don't want to work with you. But if you're at the stage where you're not quite ready, you're not really sure who I am at the moment, then by all means just hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and over time hopefully you'll be able to develop a better online relationship with me, and maybe at a later time when the timing's correct, we can work together. So yeah, with that being said, thanks so much for watching, and I hope to talk to you soon. Dice out.